So it's just as soon as you've just, where's Colin? Give me a thumbs up once you've started. There you go. Okay. Okay. So yeah. So that's pretty much what we're going to do and what today is about. So I'd like to kick off and introduce myself. My name is Darren. I am the thought leader, or at least the dreamer around the concept of the Digital League of Assessment Professionals. So I've been in kind of business for over 20 odd years now, and I've come to the realization that pretty much anything that happens in business when two people engage with each other with the requirements of one person giving another person feedback on their performance, on the task, on the process, on the engagement, that's an assessment. It's pretty much what it is. It's an assessment. And in this world in which we're gaining, business is gaining momentum, especially in the digital world, thanks to kind of COVID-19, there's been a huge push towards how do we assess digitally. So whether it be a 360-degree assessment or performance management assessment, or just an agile approach to development and you're assessing the previous sprint, or in where a lot of us players in the educational training and development space, the ETD space, it all requires that there is some kind of evidence, some kind of demonstration of application of skill or knowledge that gets reviewed by what we would term an assessor. So recruitment, for example, has an assessor. It has a recruitment agent who takes the spec of the client, the job spec, and then finds a candidate who has a portfolio of evidence and a CV and tries to match them. That in itself is an assessment. So in the ETD space, predominantly, it's quite a focused on role, because what happens is your learners will go and write an exam, or your school kids will finish a year, or in a vocational space, somebody will be studying towards some kind of a vocational qualification, and they will build a portfolio, they'll write the exam, which is a portfolio, and then that gets assessed. However, because we've moved digital, there seems to be there's definitely a huge need that a group or group of people can come together and actually kind of professionalize this a little bit. So what's right, what's wrong, what works, what doesn't. Most times people get blamed when things fall down, but it's often a process or a policy in place that's causing the disconnect. So I've been kind of in this space for over 15 or 20 years now, and I've met a lot of people in a lot of different areas. And more, there's been a request of, well, what does professional assessment look like? What if I'm doing it right? What would that look like? If I'm achieving this thing of assessment, how does it work? Does it need to be professional? Do I need specific criteria? Can I have it loose, etc., etc.? And as I've been looking more and more, there are a lot of professional bodies out there, in especially the educational training space, but even they require CPD points, and CPD points, which is continuous professional development, in and of itself needs to be assessed. You need someone to look at it and give it a thumbs up that these are real or not. So assessment is extremely broad. It cuts across many different chambers. And what I then did was I approached a few of the people that I've worked with over the past 20 odd years that I trust in the way that they've done business and the way that their values have connected. And we got together, and I decided to launch DLAP, the Digital League of Assessment Professionals, and they've joined us. So now we have this professional body that's morphing. Now, the whole purpose of DLAP is to professionalize assessment. And what we've done is we've used Bloom's taxonomy as a baseline guide for what assessment at in different areas look like. For that to work, we have come together as the body, and we've implemented we've kind of created 4 key assessor roles at different roles as to what different types of assessors would do. So we've got, for example, a foundational assessor, we've got a real world assessor, We've got a creative assessor, and all their roles are defined on the webpage, which I'm not going to go into today. What we want to do moving forward now, at least my vision, is as we grow, is to partner with as many professional bodies, training providers, and businesses to help the concept of digital assessment grow. So whether we want to work with recruitment agents who recruit online and help their recruiters understand the concept of assessment better and professionalize it, or in the ETD space, or even in the performance management space. So we started talking to companies who want their supervisors who do performance management to join DLAP, because we can enable the supervisors to understand the principles of assessment when they are doing performance reviews, when they are doing even so performance reviews in both ways, whether someone's about to get in trouble for not doing their job, or quarterly reviews, or what it is. So it kind of standardizes the landscape. As a professional body, we are growing, so we are still learning a lot. We've been around. We started in March, and yeah, we need to grow the membership now. We're keen to grow the membership now, and this is why we're doing the stakeholder forum, which Peter will probably dive into a little bit more. Peter Horn. And yeah, from here, we are really a big part of what we're doing is integrity based and accountability based. So as the team, or as you join us and join what we're doing and become a part of this kind of evolution, we really want to build a space of integrity, and what we say is what we do, and our policies are all accessible to anyone to have a look what's going on. Our procedures, our processes, the membership, how it works is all fully accessible, and we're just excited to grow really at the end of the day. And pretty much my role in DLAP is firstly it's the chairman, so my role is to kind of oversee what's going on and take full accountability, which is scary, but it's cool. And the second role that I play is in the technology side of the digital side. So I play a lot with chatbots and with digital tech platforms for portfolios and CPD points, and that's where I'll continue to play with DLAP. For some of you, you would have used our chatbot to register. Hopefully, it was a seamless process. That's where we're going. We're going to build a lot of resource and a lot of small videos that can be accessed via chatbots and via e-learning platforms, and et cetera. But really, is to get assessors comfortable with technology, comfortable with different platforms, comfortable with the way that technology can enable assessment. And we've had, as much as COVID's pros and cons, it's been a very interesting blessing for us, because it's kind of forced people into platforms now, and now people are scrambling. And ultimately, the realm of assessors are scrambling. There's been a lot of discussions in businesses going, how do you know your staff are performing? How do you know they're doing their jobs at home? How do you know that they are delivering on the tasks? And a lot of that comes down to assessment review, and that's what this body is about. It's about helping people find a bit of a light, or a bit of their way in the chaos or in the mess of technology and digital technology. I'm also very astutely aware that technology, I don't believe there's an end-to-end technological platform out there. I believe that every platform has its strengths, and it's trying to now understand that in itself as an assessment, and how people can start understanding how to create assessment processes or assessment criteria when they start looking at which technologies do we use, where do we go, how do we get our people to adopt. So that's my role in DLAP. I'm quite excited. So yeah, that's me. If you have any questions, please don't forget to whack them into the chat area, and we'll get to them a little bit later. I'd like to now hand over to Peter Horn. Hey, Peter, welcome. You unmute yourself. Please introduce yourself and tell us how you fit in.
Okay, cool. It's really, really stunning to see you all here. So thank you for showing up and stepping into the group. It's really, really wonderful. I am a learning and development specialist. Almost a sexy word for saying I love and I'm passionate about anything learning And I have been doing this for now 24 years um, in its various forms. So typically in the ETD space, but I also have had a vast connect with businesses in competency acquisition processes. And that's where my love for assessment started. And this whole journey of wondering what assessment is and how it fits in to um, understanding competence and proving competence and recording competence. And in that journey, I met Darren and the P4P process, and again fell in love with the connect between assessment and digital technology and how that can enable one another. And in this whole journey, as most skills providers have experienced, we encounter the CETAs and SAQA and the landscape of compliance, but quality assurance. And one of the biggest heartaches for me was how quality assurance and the process of quality assuring and moderating assessment became a huge bureaucratic, paperwork driven manual system that made a lot of people very unhappy from a workplace point of view in terms of effectiveness and efficiency, but was also necessary, because I don't believe it's not necessary. I do believe it is quite vital. And I just thought there's such a disconnect, and why can't the two work together? And Darren has this most amazing way of ideating and articulating some of these problems, these heartaches. And his articulation was great. He was saying, you know what, we should look at this from a different way, almost disrupt it. So this word disruption came into my vocabulary. And I did a lot more research on disruption, and particularly with disruption with regards to learning. Um, and now more so this year in 2020 with COVID. But that's a discussion for another time. My values and my processes fit well with what Darren was proposing for DLAP. And it made a lot of sense, because I felt that assessment needs to be looked at from a different point of view, but retain its heart and soul and its core, which was making sure that there's validity, reliability, authenticity, and sufficiency, all of those things that we all purport to support in terms of the principles of assessment, but also looking at blooms, which made a lot of sense as well. And so, yeah, DLAP for me is intended to cut across all types of assessment, because, as Darren said, we do assessment in many, many ways in the business world. And so I always focus at the occupational side, the occupational vocational side of competence. And we use a lot of assessment processes there. And I think that the time is right now for us to come together as a body of professionals. And I use the word professionals because that's what we are. And we are always undervaluing ourselves as assessors and our importance as assessors. So the word professional, yes, has many, many connotations in terms of SAQA, but I'm referring to it mostly as our practice and as practitioners of assessment. And I think we deserve to have a designation. And I am very conversant with what that means, and the consequences and the responsibility of awarding designations to people. In my background with SABPP primarily, way back then, and now currently still. And I still really feel that we can afford to award designations to assessment practitioners. My role is in the certification and registration side of DLAP. So really looking after ensuring that that process is makes sense in terms of digitizing it, retaining all the principles that is required from a SAQA point of view, but also from my colleagues and peers, from SABPP, Commensa, and other professional bodies, because they've been there, they've walked a journey, and they can provide immense insight into what we do. And then registrations, obviously the SAQA registration is the main priority right now, but also looking at partnering, collaborating. So personally, my business looks at collaborative economies and collaborative networks. That's what I am passionate about as well. And yeah, I think that too is really right now for this time. So I hope I have articulated my role without giving you much of a CV. But yeah, but Darren, thank you. And I will pass the baton on.
Peter, you've forgotten one thing that you need to share with us, and so has Darren. You need to share with everybody what makes you weird.
What makes me weird is my family would say that I have multiple personalities, mainly because it stemmed from my name. Okay, so when I was little, I had great trouble with my name. People don't believe that my name is Peter. So when I phone people, they say, "You can't be Peter. You must be a guy." So I say, "No, well, I actually was actually so baptized as Peter." Um, so yeah, my name then morphed to PJ. So a lot of people know me as PJ as well. And those of you who are my fellow generation, PJ Powers was a great person in my life. So yeah, that's me. That's what makes me weird, is that I just think of things in multiple personalities.
Okay, so what makes me weird? Well, well, I think a lot of people could answer that for me. Yeah, I think what makes me weird is I believe I can be Gandalf. That's why I'm growing my beard, because Gandalf is a wise guy, and I believe that I'm a wise guy. So yeah, I think that I don't fit the norm very well. In anything. So I think that's part of my weirdness. I hope that's weird enough. Peter, you're handing it the baton. Who are you handing it to?
I think we must hear from Michiel, please, only because your picture's next to mine.
Thanks, Peter. Hello, everybody. My name is Michiel van der Schuyf. I stay in George, beautiful side of South Africa, but chilly here today. I would like to refer to myself as a strategist. I have a strong influence or a strong footprint in the learning and development space in all the sort of usual roles: assessor, moderator, facilitator, learning material developer. These days with COVID, a lot of e-learning development and curriculum design. But I also stand in the middle of where learning and development and business meets. I have a business background too, and I provide service to clients or organizations in terms of showing them the benefit of learning development on their bottom line, and then all the benefits around tax deductions and 12H and all those very nice things. And then we conceptualize products and strategies around improvement of production, total quality management concepts, and all of that. My role in DLAP, because of the business background, I've been asked to run the finances. So I also am a financial person by qualification, and that's my input here. So Darren and Peter and Shari and them need to work very hard to make me happy so that there's money in the bank account. So yes, absolutely, that's me. What makes me weird, that's always a difficult difficult one, because I think I am just weird. I can cry. I can cry. Even if there's a sad ad on TV, I can cry for that. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell. Thank you for everybody joining here. All the faces here. I've already started trying to connect with you on LinkedIn. I think it's important in this day and age around assessment, and especially in the world of business. Thinking where we're at with assessment practices. Everything needs to be evaluated. Is it working? Is it not working? In my world where like I said, I consider myself a strategist, is the strategy working? And how do you know that it's working? And assessment is sort of that golden thread that gets pulled through all the processes in the value chain of the organization. Thank you, everybody. Over to Giselle.
Hello, everyone. I knew he was going to pick on me. So I'm Giselle McIntyre. I have always been a fanatic about assessment. I actually started my assessment career slightly differently. I am a qualified psychometrist. So assessments for me, right in the early days, was about assessing human nature, and I specialized in forensic psychology, so a lot of it had to do with other more interesting components of it as well. And then found training, and once training has bitten you, I'm afraid that's the end of any other plans you might have had with your life. And I'm a fanatic in terms of not wanting to do anything, including training, unless you measure it. So I'm a true believer in the fact that if you don't measure something, you honestly just should not even do it. And that to me is what assessment is about. But just like Peter, have lived in the ETD space probably for the last 20 years. I had an assessor number before there were assessor numbers. That places my age bracket for you, but anyway, and a moderator number, I might add. So I've always believed in having to do things properly. But I am, and I always will be, someone who is often referred incorrectly to as very organized. I'm not organized, I'm lazy. So if a thing can be done in a clever or a smart way, then I don't really understand why we have to do 700 forms connected to it. So I'm a bit of a revolutionary in the ETD and performance management, and quite frankly, any space that I've ever been in. And for that reason, I think that's also what makes me weird. So I like and I believe in quality, but I don't believe in it for the sake of it. It has to be because of why it's there and where it's there. I am a fanatic believer in professional designations for the simple reason that, again, to me, that proves a certain amount of quality. So I belong to quite a number of professional bodies, very involved with professional bodies, because to me, it's also a quick and efficient way for me to stay up to date. So my portfolio at DLAP is also connected to CPD, to continuous professional development, because that's my thing. Okay, if we stop learning, we stop growing. If you stop growing, you die. It's as simple as that. And that doesn't only refer to your career and to your workplace, but to everything. So my weirdness is connected to the fact that as much as I will speak quality, my favorite saying is from Pablo Picasso, who said you must learn the rules like a master so that you can break them like an artist. And I, in every aspect of my life, especially in assessment as well, have always complied with that particular rule. So I'm very glad to see as many faces as there are. And I do believe that our professionalization is a real need for people like us who through the years have never really had a home, a place where we could go, this is what we want, but more importantly, a home that is smart. In other words, where digital becomes part of that process, and that we're not signing and putting our ID number at the bottom of something simply because somebody decided that was a quality process. And thank you for the hands. So yes, that's pretty much what my role is here. We're a weird bunch in general. So I think when Colin asks us if we can be weird, we have to almost damper it down a little. and I hope that doesn't scare anyone. It should actually make you excited. So on that note, I think I will hand over to Shari.
Thank you, Giselle. Good morning, everybody. My name is Shari Matera. I'm quite a slashy, a typical millennial. I've worked in many industries, doing quite a lot of different stuff. And I think that really is where the value lies. Where I've been in restauranteering, done FMCG work, worked in higher education, as a sports scientist, I've done sports coaching, I worked in sports sponsorships and marketing. I've then also spent many years working on learnerships as a facilitator and assessor. I worked in insurance and ICT, and I think that's really what attracted me to work and add value and do work within DLAP. Is that here, all of that counts. It's not only about my ETD experience, and it's really about how you bring all of you and your entire professional self in order to be a member of a professional body that will look at it holistically. And more so, how do we then actively participate in the fourth industrial revolution, which in South Africa is quite prime, but around the world it's sort of a little bit old already, So when we as a professional body, oh no, I see I am distorting, my audio is distorting.
Sorry, we're just having quite a bit of a difficulty hearing your audio. It's very kind of broken at the moment. Do you want to maybe? You're still on mute.
I'm on mute.
Okay, that's better.
Let me get onto another line and hand over to someone else in the meantime. Okay.
Thank you, Shari. Appreciate it.
Please excuse me.
Colin, while we wait for Shari, you get a go. Welcome.
Okay, thank you. And welcome to all of our international guests here today. So that's really awesome to see. My name's Colin Carmody. I, for the last 20 odd years, have been working in the learning and organizational development space and loving it. Kind of fell into it initially, and predominantly in the hospitality and gaming industry. So I guess that makes me a qualified critic of restaurants and a qualified critic of cocktails and bartenders in general. But being a critic is a very negative connotation. So don't call me that. And also my wife doesn't like it when I sit and criticize a restaurant. So I very quickly learned that what I enjoy the most is actually the experience rather than trying to nitpick. But that was my assessor background coming in, I suppose. And my personal standards of quality in that area. I'm sure everybody can kind of relate to that when you work in your own area of expertise. You look at things with a very judgmental eye. But yeah, what really drives me is more than that is creating the experiences where people can grow and have some fun doing it. I guess that's why I was in learning and development and why I've stayed in it for so long, because the kind of experience of seeing people grow, whether it's one individual or a whole team, is the kind of thing that brings a tear to my eye, much like Michael. You won't admit it, but there's a real warm feeling when you see people grow in this space. Yeah, so a little while ago, Darren and I were solving the world's problems, as we sometimes do, and we were generally talking about the frustrations in the learnership field and doing assessments, and especially on the digital space. And that conversation has just snowballed into DLAP and what we're doing here. So I'm working on the bots as well. So if you do see any problems, give me a shout. But that's a little bit of my contribution into this team as well. And to finish off, in terms of what makes me weird, I guess one of the reasons why Darren keeps beating me on the beard length is because once or twice a year I need to shave it off, because I'm a big fan of historical reenactments and living history. So once or twice a year I get dressed up in the 1940s, and last year I traveled all the way to America to attend one of the biggest reenactments, celebrating the 75th anniversary of the D-Day landings during World War II. So yeah, that's that's my alter ego, and just one of the little weirdnesses that I bring to the team. So that's me. And that leaves us not last and definitely not least with Kerry to introduce herself.
Hi everyone, my name is Kerry Allen and I am the admin side of DLAP. I've never been in this space before, so it's a huge learning curve for me and I'm thoroughly enjoying it, and I just love, I'm the boss, thanks Darren. I just love the people that I'm working with, their enthusiasm, their knowledge. It's just made me think outside of the little box that I've always been in. I will be the person that's answering your emails. I receive any emails that come through to assessor support. And on our website, it's my number. So if anyone needs to speak to anyone, this is the face that you will be speaking to. And what makes me weird? I will try and organize you even if you don't want to be organized. Which I have a lovely time with this lot. Because they are all weird. But I cannot say enough how enthusiastic, how passionate, and how much they love what they do, which just, I can just see anyone who joins this body is just going to learn so much, have so much assistance. And if you need an out-the-box solution, these are the people that you need to speak to. With that, I'm going to hand back to Shari.
Thank you, Kerry. Attempt number 2. I really hope that the mic works properly this time. I've changed devices. So back to who I am. I come from a very diverse background. I'm a sports scientist by training. I've worked in marketing. You know, I've worked in restauranteering, FMCG, higher education, sports marketing, many learnerships that I've worked on facilitating and assessing. I've worked in insurance. And that's really what has brought me to DLAP, right? Because DLAP sees you for all of who you are, not just a piece of who you are. So the fact that I'm involved in the ETD space is how I got introduced to DLAP. And then I realized that, oh, okay, this is a platform where we will acknowledge all of your assessment capabilities, which for me, as somebody who's in sports coaching, for example, that's exactly what we do. You know, as a sports scientist, that's exactly what we do in relation to the body. And I just think that there's so much more that assessment can be applied to, especially the principles of assessment. And as a continent, as Africa, the principles of assessment are ways in which we can lead our lives differently. And I think that as a continent, it will help us to no longer be the dark continent, but the continent of hope, where we lead with integrity, where we lead with morals, where we lead with values, where we are able to find a sense of normalcy through a standardized assessment platform that can be used in all industries. And really, that is what DLAP's work is. It's about how we bring all industries together and find one way of standardizing assessment in order to push messages and also in order to improve professional capability, right? Because we have found that in many different industries, we use different metrics in order to basically assess the same skill. And that in itself is where a lot of our conversations are based upon, just so that we are also able to run through our own experience, our own bottlenecks that we have seen in various experiences that will eventually become part of the solution that we offer. And that is really the reason why I'm telling you that story, is because that is where we want all of you to also give us feedback and to also make sure that we don't miss out on a lot, so that the solution is holistic. And for me, as my role in marketing within DLAP, it's essential that I share the entire story for you. You know, and we get the message out there, and we make the message global, and we ensure that we reach far and wide, in order to also give more meaning to the work that we do, and also to give more meaning to the designations that we then sign off. You know, the more global it becomes, the better it then becomes, because then we also understand different industries and can make a lot more impact, which then brings me to the weird part. I think I'm weird because I'm actually an introvert, but I live in an extrovert's body. That's all from me.
Well, there we go. So thank you guys so much for that. That's really good. It's always quite funny to listen to these guys talk, especially on, we have Thursday meetings every Thursday, kind of operational meetings, and they're always scheduled for an hour, but people like Michiel and Shari just keep them going on for hours, and then we just talk for hours. Okay, so a few things that I'd just like to kind of wrap up on, and then you know, we can go from there. So we have created 4 designations. We have two key types of members. We have just an ordinary member, and then we have a designated member. If you are a designated member, you'll be required to demonstrate some of your skills through a portfolio, and you will be assessed by one of our members, one of our people assessors, to make sure that that the portfolio kind of lines up. We are, as we're growing, we have now got 8 chambers. So we are in the process of looking for people who want to take on the role of a chamber director, per se. It's not entirely clear what that means yet. We do have some ideas, but we are not very much, the philosophy of DLAP is, if you put your hand up, you get to do it. So if you want to become a chamber director, that's great. Tell us what you're going to do. Tell us what success looks like, and then let's chase it together. So what we are a big focus of where we're going is we are going to be using 2 digital platforms. The one platform is called VTA, Virtual Training Academy, and what DLAP will start doing is our members, as well as us, will start creating short videos around the different assessment criteria of the designation. So there's 7 criteria which you can look at, but they will start doing videos, and our designated members will be able to access those videos in their designation, and so that will start kind of growing from there. At the back of every video or short kind of 10-20 minutes course will be some kind of an assessment, because obviously that's what we believe in, that's what we're trying to build, and it will be some kind of a digital assessment. So if you track what we're doing, that will get going. Our webpage at the moment, I just dropped it into the chat room. It's in a Wix build site currently. We haven't managed to link it yet to the URL, but that's Giselle and I need to get together, which we'll do. So it will be dlap.org.za, and it hopefully will be that by the end of this week. Otherwise, so DLAP, Digital League of Assessment Professionals, DLAP, dlap.org.za. Otherwise, there is the Wix site, which is a lot longer. I've dropped it into the chat room. You're welcome to access that. So chamber directors, we're looking for people to help us drive that. CPD points are only for designated members, and basically we're trying to shift the way you do CPD points. So just because you go to a conference, we'll pat you on the back, but we won't give you CPD points for that. Just because you read a great article, well done, pat on the back, but you won't get CPD points for that. We are all about application of scenarios. So if you go and comment on someone's blog, you might get some kind of a reward, a badge. So Colin's helping on the gamification strategy. Some kind of a badge or a reward for commenting. Enough comments will get you a CPD points. If you write a paper and apply it, there's CPD points there. If you go to a conference and then you apply what you learned from the conference, you get CPD points there. If you do research on YouTube or anywhere, and then you do something with the research, you'll get CPD points. We are all about application. And if you are able to satisfy the application or whatever you've done, there are CPD points available for that. So we really are about continuous professional development. And we're about you doing it in your workplace. So the very fact that you do some kind of a performance review, you can use there is a framework around answers and what we're looking for to demonstrate CPD. If you just doing your job can demonstrate it, that's also great. That's what we're looking for. So we're really not about, having to go to the next conference and fork up the next, flight and accommodation for CPD points, although that's fun, if work's paying, but ultimately that's where we're going. So what will happen now is Colin has created I haven't seen any major questions in the chat area per se. So what we're going to do is Colin's created a post stakeholder forum chatbot, which he's going to drop into the chat room. We're going to leave this bot open for 14 days. And the bot, you're going to just check who you are. We have to check who you are because SACWA requires that. And then there's going to be 2 lines of questioning. The first set of questions will be just yes, no, true, false, yes, no. It's all about your perspective of DLAP and this forum. And then there'll be a texting opportunity. There'll be 4 or 5 questions where you can text answers on your phone or if you're on your laptop. That's going to be open from now until the 14th of October. And then what we'll do is every question that we get, we will answer. So everybody in this forum at least will get a link to those answers. So we've got your details here, I hope. So if you were here, you will see all the questions and all our answers. You're welcome. We'll put it onto our webpage as well. We'll put this recording will also go onto our webpage as well, so you can access this anytime. And I think here is to being able to change the way people do performance management, the way people recruit, the way people move between companies, between departments and companies, the way people receive qualifications and certification, the way people, here's how to change it. Here's how the digital space has offered us the opportunity to make changes. Peter, would you like to say anything else?
Yes. So Ronelle, thank you for your question regarding the 4 designations. So briefly, we're looking at, as Darren said, we apply the Bloom's taxonomy. So at the first level designation, we have the assessor who is able to just apply assessment. They basically have been given forms and been given templates or frameworks in which they will utilize assessment. Okay, so if you imagine this across sectors, if you imagine a claims assessor, for instance, in the medical insurance sector, they basically get given a form and a script in which to do assessment. So that is your baseline, almost entry level designation. Then we have someone who then takes assessment and is able to then apply the real world context. So in other words, what they're doing is they're not only able to apply a framework that is being given to them or that they've designed, but they're now stepping it up and able to, within the principles of assessment, customize it or contextualize assessment for that specific sector or need or requirement. So for instance, our recruiters who then apply other means in which to assess a person's job fit for a real world environment. And then we have the next person who is then able to adapt. So now assessment has been applied correctly, but now needs to design, redesign, and recreate parts of the assessment process within the principles of assessment, the VACs, the validity, reliability, etc., but now are able to bring in adaptations because competence is bigger, broader, more different, and can utilize differing means of evidence for competence, being your skills, your knowledge, and your values. And so that then is the next tier of designation. And then we have our final designation, which is people who are utilizing digital purely to inform and then also improve, I dare say, because it's not necessarily improvement, but advise back into the world of assessment using the digital space. So hence MOOCs, your chatbots, and all those other differing types of digitization that is being brought into the assessment world. And more importantly, at that level, how you're contributing back to the assessment practice. So we are very, very focused on this is not it. There may be something else out there, and we need to recognize people who are doing that process. We have grappled, and this is probably where we'll need, and we know we'll need, a lot of input from all of you who are here today and others in our peer network. We grappling with the levels. We have, all of us in the board have basically definitely decided it's not levels as in grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, grade 4, grade 5. They are more designation bands. And that is really mainly because we're trying to get away from this paradigm of I have to, I am not it, I have to be better than that, and I have to be better than somebody else, and somebody else, and somebody else, and we chase a ladder. We have ladders within our practice. I don't know if I'm articulating that right, Darren. You need to jump in, please.
What we've done is we've moved away from levels of assessment to areas of assessment. If you consider them as areas. So what would happen is we don't, the problem of always trying to work up a corporate ladder or work upward tends to bring unnecessary pressure. And if people professionalize within an area, they should not then be penalized for not wanting to increase and get better. So what we've done is we've created, for example, the foundational assessor. It's area 1, it's not level 1, it's area 1. And foundational assessor has different levels within the foundational assessor. So you can become an ambassador or a professional or a guru as a foundational assessor, but you might never step into a different area. And that's what we're trying to build here. So the designations that we have defined are based on where people would fit most comfortably with what they're currently doing in their jobs, with their lifestyle, and they don't feel they have to try and get to another level in order to become better. If they want to, they can move to different areas or play in all 4 areas, but they can also specialize in a specific area and become the best within that area. So in picking up on that, also, I just saw another question from Tumi. Why are we using Bloom's rather than the NQF? Because Bloom's is broad. Tumi, it's for the very reason that Bloom's economy is broad, that we're using Bloom's, because this is not about ETD assessment. This is a far bigger focus on assessment. And when I spoke to Joe Samuels and Dr. Shirley Lloyd about this as well, the assessment tends to be held in the ETD space, same like recognition of prior learning. It seems to be held in the ETD space, and business then ignores it. However, business is actually where it gets rolled out the most stepchild almost. So what we're trying to go is, yes, ETD must keep playing in the assessment space with the NQF process. However, business needs to start defining what it should look like, and business needs to start actually driving the professionalism of this role of assessment. And that's why we started with Blooms. We are probably incorporate a whole bunch of different theories and applications as we go. Our next step now is to test our, from almost in an agile perspective, get more people on, get people in using it, get feedback. Shari was we got very lucky when Shari found us, because she initially came in as a learner, or as somebody, as a member. And she was very patient with us, and eventually I got hold of her just to say, look, what's going on. And she came and brought some really good feedback, because she did something and it didn't work very well, and she had a lot of very in-depth questions, which is what our focus is. Our goal is to drive based on user experience rather than on us dictating downward. So that was 2 questions we hopefully answered in a broader perspective. Yes, Michiel, please go ahead.
Sorry for interrupting you. I want to just allow for the last minute to wrap up, so that we, people want to get to meetings. I noticed a few other questions on the chat. Thank you for that. To me, just quickly, we are a board, so we are governed. We've adopted the King 4, and we are board directors, with Darren as the chairman. But as he's mentioned, as we grow and there are certain chambers and whatever, we might morph. I like that word, as we seem fit, and that's what's nice about the digital environment, which we change as we go. So we will answer all the other questions as well. Thank you very much for that. It's very valuable. We want to grow, and we want to make sure that we are checking the right boxes here. Thank you, everybody, for attending. We wish you well. Please support us. Please tell your network about us. If there are any questions, ask Darren, don't ask me. We are willing to address everything as far as we can. If you've got input, if you've got any suggestions, we also welcome that. Thank you very much. We all wish you safety and health and prosperity. Thank you very much. Goodbye.